Expeditions. What are they? Simply dungeons with a different name? Or something more? Hello, my name is Danotage, and welcome to the New World Introduction Lab, a series of videos that will help you learn the basics of the game. So, subscribe now in order to follow this run of videos, as I hope they help. With over 400 combined hours in the alpha and the beta versions of New World, I hope that my knowledge will do something for at least one person out there. If you have any time spent in the beta versions of the New World, you're probably familiar with most of the things I'll be covering in this series. However, there's always something we miss. So hopefully you'll find something in there that helps you become an expert in at least one aspect of the game. Expeditions. As Amazon Game Studio describes expeditions, they are 5-person dungeon crawls that promote the standard tank, healer, and DPS group style. So, dungeons. For anyone that is familiar with the typical group-based content that exists in most MMORPGs, you will probably be familiar with how expeditions typically work. You gather your team, kill mobs and bosses, solve puzzles, and get loot. It's a pretty easy concept. However, there's something in New World that makes grinding these out a little bit more involved. Tuning Orbs. Tuning Orbs are literally the keys to the expeditions. Only one person in your party is required to have an orb, thankfully. But there is a specific tuning orb for each of the main expeditions. So, there is a bit of planning required if you don't have a ton of access to materials. In order to obtain these tuning orbs, there are pieces of the main story quest line that will grant you a single tuning orb for expeditions like Armine Excavation and Starstone Barrows. However, for most of the other ones, you'll need to craft them. In order to craft these tuning orbs, you will need to have a stone cutting specialty level that grows with you as you progress through the game, as you progress through your player levels and unlock said expeditions. The corrupted fragments you need are gathered from participating in the closing of large corruption nodes. Keep in mind that the corrupted slivers, fragments, shards, etc. only come from the large nodes, and not the small ones. They come from the chests that you earn after closing the node, or participate in closing the node, and they are bind on pickup. So, closing these nodes with your expedition party is one of the more efficient methods of grinding out these tuning orbs. You will also notice that there is another special item that is required to make these tuning orbs, the chisel. Chisels of all tiers are purchased from your faction representative. These are found in any claimable settlement. Go talk to your faction rep, and you'll see that you'll be able to purchase one. This also means that you will need to be leveling your faction reputation if you are going to be the one creating these orbs. What makes expeditions unique? Other than the requirement, in order to enter each expedition each time, it makes each successful run that much more precious. The immersion that AGS has brought to both the lead-up and the run of each expedition really makes them special. According to the lore of Aeternum, all seafaring peoples throughout the 15th through 18th centuries have found this island at some point in time. This means that there are many cultures that will affect the themes and lore of these expeditions. From Greek to Norse, Christian to whatever happened with the Azoth itself on this island, far before humanity even set foot on Aeternum, what has influenced the events that happened before you arrived on this expedition is seemingly limitless. They are also themed to things that are independently influenced by the core lore of the game, which should be part of the planning before entering each expedition. This will influence which tinctures to bring, coatings, and resistances you need to pack in your backpack. Because of all this, in my time on Aeternum, I have yet to get bored of an expedition. Puzzles. The puzzles in the expeditions are not very difficult, but they are unique to each expedition. I can also say that they do not necessarily insult your intelligence either, considering AGS expects everyone that plays the game to be able to complete the puzzles. Several of these puzzles require several members of your party to participate, and as you progress through higher level expeditions, they do become a little bit more complicated. The same goes for the boss fights. The beauty of New World's dungeon system is that, due to the relatively small amount of expeditions in the game, they feel spread out and very balanced in that way. You have to spend time to level through each one, and the fights and puzzles tend to feel like a step up each time. From a simple tank and spank to a split the party mechanic, There's a real feeling of difference in each expedition. This is nice, and it tells me that the devs have focused on making dungeoning fun. And so far, from what I've seen, I've had a blast. The loot. If you were to level from level 1 to the max level, your gear progression and overall look will be relatively boring in my opinion. There are some cool legendary armor pieces that you can find, earn, or craft throughout the territories, but they feel rather human-made. If you're into that, that's cool. If you want something a little bit more unique, the expedition loot is far more interesting looking. Not to mention, they're very powerful for the level required in order to enter those expeditions. If you've looked into crafting either through my content or somebody else's, you have probably seen that you can craft items that you earn in each expedition, or at least the types of versions that you would find there. You may have also noted that there are special materials you need in order to do so. For instance, coagulated blood for the Armine gear, and as you may have guessed, this blood can only be found in the Armine excavation expedition. I haven't spent too much time in this part of the crafting cycle to tell you how difficult it is to gather these items, but I'm willing to bet that the juice is worth the squeeze based on the gear that I have seen dropped from them, especially because of how cool and how useful each expedition gear is. If you can get some of the more rare gear and weapons to drop for you upon completion of an expedition, that's great. However, if you're like me, and you will get a bunch of awesome gear for archetypes that you don't wish to play, you will probably need to craft some yourself. It is important to note that most of the gear that drops in the expeditions are bind on pickup, so trading is not an option. Some are bind on equip, but not all of them. I hope that this video brought you some insight into what expeditions are in New World. I know that it sounds like I have glorified simple dungeoning, but I do believe that there is something special here. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more just like it, please leave a like and let me know what you'd like to see next. If you didn't like it, well, leave a dislike. If you really didn't like it, make sure you hit that little bell button so that my alarm in my house goes off, letting me know that I suck. Until next time, I've been Danotage, and I hope you keep the metal heavy. I'll see ya.